Hi everyone, the name of this video is called Children's Books and New Ideas, and it was inspired by a recent conversation that I had with about 2 teachers that had come to the store looking for books for their students. I have had this conversation a couple of times over the past few years, and I wanted to share it with you. So one of my theories about how society works is one of the ways society will push an idea through to become part of us, for the idea to become a part of the society, is by introducing itself through children's books. A lot of parents will monitor what the children watch on television. They will monitor what the children watch on YouTube, what they watch on, or what they listen to on the radio and on their phones, but nobody really takes the time to see what the child is reading. I guess they just make an assumption that since it's a children's book, it will not contain an idea that might conflict with the family's lifestyle. Some parents are very religious, or some parents have very political or specific political beliefs, and they feel they can get their child any book. But you can't if you are living that type of lifestyle. You have to make sure that you go through these books to see if this is the content that you want your child to learn. So I'm going to share with you some of the things I have seen from working in a library, and also how the ideas introduced in books can affect the child throughout their adult life. So first things first. When I worked in the library, I would shelve books. I worked in about 3 different libraries, and I shelved books in all, actually 3-4 of them. So whenever I went to the children's sections, I was hand-on with the books, seeing what the books were saying, looking at the illustrations, and some books crossed my path, and I'm like, I never thought they would make a book about this. So back in 2013, I came across a book called Daddy's Wedding, and I had a subtle inkling that it was about LGBTQ and gay rights, but after I read the book, I was very sure that this is exactly what it was about. Basically, the main character, his father is getting married to another man, and it shows all of the people in their life celebrating their love and had all of the rainbow colored flags, and it was a positive image of gay rights and people who were part of LGBTQ. So a couple of years ago, or 10-15 years ago, books like this wouldn't have been able, well, maybe it did come out but decades ago, books like this would not fly. It would not be able to get in the library. In fact, when I researched on this book, Daddy's Wedding, a lot of people didn't like it. People protested it. People didn't want it in their schools. They didn't want it in their churches, or not even in their home on their bookshelf. And this was a children's book. But of course, obviously, it is about LGBTQ. Please forgive me if I'm saying all the acronyms wrong. It's about gay rights. They make it obvious. All you have to do is flip through the books. You see the colors. You see the colors of the flag. So a book like that was causing a lot of stir back then. But now, as you see, the LGBTQ community is growing, it's gaining momentum, it's becoming more accepted by society. You have a lot of young people that are claiming themselves as transgender, and they need literature that will be able to fit their needs and have an understanding of what is happening with them, and knowing that somebody advocates for them. Now it is becoming more accepted. But if you did this like 50 years ago, it would just not fly. So when you have an idea introduced like this into a children's book, the child is exposed to the idea, their mind is very malleable. They'll be able to accept the idea or cast aside the idea depending on what you write. Because when I was a child and I went to a religious school, we had graphic novels that were talking about homosexuality and gay people, and they're like, they're thieves, they're evil, they're doing all of this, and they're child molesters and stuff like that. And that's what we believed, because that's what the books were telling us. But of course, as we got older, we found out that most of that was not true. Not all gay people are thieves, and they're not all child molesters, and they're not all trying to destroy society. That's just not how it is. But since you have this alternative idea in these books, the children will be able to get, I guess, more open to this idea. Another book that I wanted to discuss is 10,000 Dresses. 10,000 Dresses is also about, I guess, being transgender, but it is not as obvious as Daddy's Wedding. Any parent that was against gay rights and they saw Daddy's Wedding, they would just kind of throw it to the side. But if you go with 10,000 Dresses, the illustration doesn't even look like a little boy. I didn't know it was a little boy when I read it. I read the story 5 times, and people were saying, oh, in the story, they're like, oh, you can't wear that, da da da, making fun of the child for wearing a dress. And I'm like, why are they making fun of this little girl for wearing a dress? Because it looked like a little girl. But after the 5th time, that's when I realized that it was a little boy. But I would not have caught that if I had not read this book thoroughly. I have to pause and think about this. So I'm not saying an idea that is being introduced is good or bad. I'm just saying you just got to see what idea is being introduced, because some ideas are bad that are being introduced. Like when I was a child, I had a lot of racist ideas being implemented in my fictional books. 1st grade, thinking people didn't know how to read in other countries. Because based off of our curriculum, people in Asian countries didn't know how to say thank you. Black people were cannibals and Buddha was Satan. I don't know. That's just based off of our fiction that we read. But nowadays, that would not fly. People would call it offensive. When I shelved in the teen section, I noticed that they were starting to try to transition certain teens to the urban fiction books. Sometimes I would look at a teen book that was supposed to be urban fiction, but they would disguise it as something else. But if you put an adult urban fiction book and a teen that was supposed to be a wannabe urban fiction book next to each other, they would look like the same thing. Why were they doing this? Because these teens are going to be their future readers. They're going to be their future customers. They need more readers for urban fiction. That's why when you have these children's books and teen books, it is a very competitive field. They have more vibrant colors than adult books. They have better covers than They have better covers than adult books because they have to keep the child's interests. That's why illustration in that demographic is so intense. Anyway, I have notes over here, so. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is the reason these ideas are being more accepted now, the reason they're being talked about now, is because you are not dealing with the same type of child. This is not like the child 60, 70 years ago where little Billy was out in the yard playing and little Sally was in the kitchen baking a cake. It is not the same type of child. This is a whole different child. This is a whole different generation. These children are going to be the future. And people are wondering, like, why are they accepting of this? Why are they accepting of that? I'm like, maybe you should look at the literature. Don't look at the television. Look at the literature they're reading. Because when you read something, it gets into your heart. It puts something on your mind. It can cause an uproar in society, like that book, The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. People were really angry about the working conditions in the factories simply based off of that book. Uncle Tom's Cabin, they say it started a whole war. Even though I didn't really like that book. Huckleberry Finn, didn't like him either. But hey, powerful books do powerful things. But as I said, it's not the same type of child. It is not the same type of child. These children are different. They're thinking differently. They're thinking deeper. They're having questions about their identity. They're medicated. They're living a whole different dietary lifestyle if they're like in the United States than people in the past were living. Their family structure is completely different. You have children whose parents are divorced. You have children who have two moms, children who have two dads, children who have a mom who used to be a dad and a dad who used to be a mom, no parents at all, foster children. You have all of these different types of children, and you cannot create the same literature that you created in the past. It's like Dora the Explorer. Even though she wasn't a book, she was a television show. But having that television show made people want to learn Spanish. Like, especially the young people are like, oh, Dora the Explorer. And they learn how to count in Spanish. And it opened their acceptance to Latinos and encouraged Spanish as a language in school. And Dora the Explorer is still popular to this day, as popular as the day she first came out. But yeah, but like I said, you gotta be, sometimes you do have to be careful when you are giving these children these books. Sometimes somebody will slip something that just isn't good in there, that's too advanced for the child. I remember I opened a book, it was about changing your body. I get, not changing your body, but like puberty. And it was just too much sexual content in there for a child. I know you can show the anatomy and everything, but you're like showing all these sexual positions and you're trying to market this to a 10-year-old. I don't think so. Some ideas you have to be careful. Like they're trying to, I believe they're trying to push this pedophilia thing going on. Now you see all these children's clothes looking kind of different and kind of mature, dressing differently because they're trying to sexualize the children. And personally, that's my personal belief. You might believe something else, but that's what I believe. Believe they're trying to sexualize these children. So if you have a child, if you monitor their viewing, if you monitor what they listen to, you should also be monitoring their book, especially the history books. Make them question what they're reading. Teach them how to be an active reader. If something doesn't seem right, ask them, what do you think about this? Does this seem right to you? Because I remember when I was reading about all of these fictional character black people being cannibals, that kind of hurt my self-esteem because there were only 5 black people in the whole school. And people looking at me like, do you eat people? I'm like, no, I don't eat people. I eat food. Like, what the heck? But that affected my adult life because what they were reading changed their perception of me. That's why you have to have books that reflect the children in a positive light. So books are very important. It can affect how the child views himself or herself. So that's all I have to say. And thank you for watching this video. And I will be back with a book review in maybe a week or two because I'm reading 2 books simultaneously. And you will see it coming. Bye-bye.